Hello, Dave. Thank you for taking the time to chat today.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you for taking your time out. I really appreciate it. I'm in my coming up to my mid 30s, so I'm in that core group of people who grew up with American Pie. One of my favorite films of all time. The first two, in particular, were two movies that me and my friends just watched on repeat constantly. It was my first R-rated movie. I watched it probably certainly far too young for the very first time. But I feel like it was a real pivotal force in my upbringing, a very big force in my cultural appreciation growing up. And as you can see, a big movie fan. I'm sure you get this all the time, but did you ever imagine that American Pie would still be part of the cultural conversation 25 years later?
Yeah, it was in my contract that it would become a
Yeah.
cult classic and still loved forever. There's no end date on that contract. So the only reason I signed on is they of course promised me. I should probably let me look at the contract and see when the fifth film is coming up. No, dude, of course
Sure.
I had no idea. I was just happy to have a job, and
Mm.
I still feel that way whenever I get to work and do something that I love so much. And so. I think with some of the other things that I've achieved in my career, I really have come to a position of being able to embrace it, and I'm not afraid to embrace people, kind of having the nostalgic moments of my career. I know that I have other things, so I can fully, wholeheartedly embrace that, and I don't feel like I'm going to get pigeonholed by it, you know?
No, certainly not. I mean, while you were making it, surely there was a hope, not to, maybe not from yourself, but from others involved, maybe even, that it could go down as one of the classic teen sex comedies like Porky's or Revenge of the Nerds, etc. And I feel like American Pie now is as old as those movies were while you were making American Pie, and it's part of that same conversation now. Was there a feeling like I hope that perhaps it could go down as part of that same?
Well, that was always Adam Herr's idea, is that he based the film on those, and he had a theory that there was a 20-year cycle for entertainment. And so we were coming up on that 20-year cycle. So he had based it on Animal House and Porky's. I mean, the whole, internet scene with Nadia is the, hole in the girls' locker room wall of Porky's. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
it's an homage, if you will. And so but I think at this theory was just a theory. It wasn't until the first movie like started performing in the box office. And when I say it was the general term is sleeper hit.
Yeah.
So like right now we have tentpole movies, which is like all the big Marvel films, and Deadpool and Wolverine comes out and it breaks box office opening weekend records. We weren't that movie. We weren't like opening weekend $100 million smash success. We made like $10 million opening weekend. But then we also made 10 million the second weekend and the third and the fourth and the fifth. And I remember like dial-up connection on my like phone landline internet connection, waiting to get online to check, what it was it called? We still have it today, like for the box office reports. Box Office Mojo had just
Okay.
started.
Yeah.
So you could download the reports and get them faster than Variety if you had the internet in 1999. And I remember checking it every week. And I think by the time we got to like the seventh week and we were at $70 million was the
Mm.
time I was like, oh wow, people are really into this film, and like it's hitting a chord. But
Yeah.
still, I wouldn't have thought I'd be going to Australia to do a 25th anniversary screening for the movie.
Well, there you go. Well, I was going to say that's why we're talking. You're coming over here, which is incredible. January 31st at the Hayden Orpheum Picture Palace in Sydney, and Feb 7th at the Astor Theatre in Melbourne. Which I'm based in Melbourne. This is my favourite theatre in the whole city. It's just gorgeous. 1930s Picture Palace. I was actually there this week watching Nosferatu. I thought what a great place to watch that in. But yeah, Movie Nerds will be presenting a 25th anniversary screening of the first film. You'll be involved in a Q&A, meet and greet and signing. Tickets can be purchased at www.movienerds.net, and I have many options, including VIP meet and greet, signings, and photo ops. I imagine you're really excited about this. Do you get involved in a lot of stuff like this these days?
I do, yeah. I mean, I've done a fair amount of retro screenings of American Pie and Rookie of the Year in the US. And then I've started doing what's called American Pie Emo Night with my band, where I kind of do the retro screening, but not in a traditional theater, more at a club, or music venue. And then my band plays, and then I do an emo DJ set. So I'm actually doing
Yeah.
that in the Gold in Burley Heads on the Gold Coast, um,
Awesome.
sort of in between, and doing some other shows around. I've got sort of a songs and stories happening at Amphora the night before the screening with movie nerds.
You mentioned talk of a fifth movie, and I know you've been on record talking about it's happening, it's not happening. I'm not going to, ask that because I'm sure there's not much more to add to the conversation. But I'm kind of curious, particularly with you mentioning, Adam Hur's thoughts of the 20-year cycle of movies and culture. I'm kind of curious how an American Pie movie would be approached today. In a world that has become a lot more progressive, entertainment has become a lot more progressive. A lot of the comedy that was pretty much mainstream, even in the 2000s, is considered, I guess, taboo by some audiences today. I genuinely don't think a movie like American Pie 1 or 2 gets made today.
This
Curious.
is like a common sort of perspective on the film. But
Yeah.
in my sort of research, having done these events and trying to, kind of jar my own memory
Mm.
and talk about different things at these events so that I'm not just telling the same stories over and over again, I
Yeah.
watched a behind the scenes interview, and it came across, I think it was either Paul Weitz or Chris Weitz talking about how back then we couldn't make the movie. And I started to remember all this pushback that we had from the studio and from the MPAA. We spent weeks not being able to get a rated R rating. They were giving us an NC-17
Right.
because we
Yeah.
pushed the envelope a little too far.
Yeah.
And so you say we couldn't make it in today's day and age.
Yeah.
We couldn't make it then. I don't know why people seemingly think that the 90s were less progressive. We were
Yeah.
5 years into the term PC. It all existed back then. I think the difference is there's maybe not as much record of it because the internet was only barely just starting. We still had
Yeah.
dial-up connection, and not everyone had it. I remember I would go on AOL chat rooms and I'd chat with my cousin because she was like the only other friend that I, had that was up past midnight in like 96 when I was
Yeah.
like dialing up, on AOL online America.
Look, I'm all for it. I love, like, I've got here actually the four movie collection. They're still on rotation for me, and I still love them. And I hate to see stuff like this, not getting made today. So that's a really cool way to put it.
But we've got some good opportunities here, and I think there is now like maybe an opportunity for these things because they're making the long-awaited sequel to Happy Gilmore. Not
Yeah.
saying that
Oh
that
yeah.
is pushing the envelope, but his fight with Bob Barker wasn't necessarily appropriate.
No.
But I think that if that film comes out and is well received and successful, then we've got an
Mhm.
opportunity to get back into that kind of broad comedy that we haven't had in a while.
No, that's awesome. No, I really hope that something pulls together and it's just as raunchy and envelope pushing. I was going to say that's even written in my notes. The first one, even this, the whole series were very envelope pushing for the time. I hope that can be pulled together. That'd be awesome. And I read an interview, I think, with the screenwriter of no, it was like a video I saw just yesterday with the screenwriter of Independence Day, who is trying to sell an original screenplay at the moment and is being turned down by these studios because it's not based on something. So this is that like core moment where I think this one can slip through, and I really do hope so.
The reason I know this, and I don't know if you heard this tidbit about it because I haven't
Yeah.
haven't talked about it in interviews per se. But my son, who's following in my footsteps, he starred in M. Night Shyamalan's movie Old. So when we were
Yes.
at
Yeah.
the premiere, the president of Universal and the chairwoman of Universal told me the summer of 2021 that they were negotiating with Adam Hers for American Pie 5. That tells me that the studio sees the validity of it. And also, as far as it being like a cultural, like a cult classic, have you ever been to Universal Studios?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah.
So the tram ride. Then when at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
very end, when you come down the hill and there's all the posters, the fact that we're one of those 50
yeah.
posters of like, big, we're like up there. It's like Jurassic Park and like, what is American Pie doing there on that
Yeah.
run down on the tram ride for the tram tour at Universal Studios? But there it is. So I think there is an opportunity for it, and I know that myself and the cast included, we're all up for it, and
Yeah.
we're looking forward to the opportunity to get to hang out with each other. And if we
Can
do
imagine.
that, it will be fun. And even though we shouldn't do that, I think we should.
No, you definitely should. And like I said, the movie is part of this cultural conversation. Myself, my friends still quote it. And I think it definitely deserves that spot with those 50 films because, millennial culture is huge now. And there's like a big nostalgia push. And it's one of those defining moments in American and I guess global culture. It's huge over here. The movie was huge over here when it came out.
Well, here's the thing. I know there's been some talks about like, what is it? I don't even know what Gen Z being offended by the film.
Hmm.
But the
Yeah,
best
right.
part about entertainment is that not everyone has to watch everything. So
Exactly.
there's enough people that would enjoy this, and if you don't enjoy it, then don't watch it. That's
Hmm. Yeah.
it's not like it's going to be like required reading at school.
No, exactly right. No, that's everything I want to hear about this. So I'm keen, and I'm hoping that it does pull through. And I'm certain it will. Our time is running out. It has run out. I don't want to push it too much, but I do want to also mention. I just wanted to quickly. I had to give a shout out for A Kid in King Arthur's Court, one of my absolute favorites, and also Walt Before Mickey. Great film. I loved your performance in that. I'm a big Disney fan. Walt Disney is one of my favorites, and despite my big love for American Pie and raunchy teen sex comedies and stuff, a lot of my content on YouTube is focused around like animation history and that kind of stuff. So yeah, just wanted to briefly mention that and tell that I really appreciate your work in that and your legacy and part of the Disney canon and stuff like that. I wish we could talk more about it, but I won't push it here.
We can always do
But yeah,
something. Since I have two events in Melbourne, there might be some time on that Friday if you want to delve into talking about some of the Disney stuff. And of
yeah,
course, now Disney owns Rookie of the Year, so it wasn't always
yes,
Disney, but
of
technically it
course.
is now.
Well, that will be awesome, and I will be at the screening too, so it'll work out perfectly. So awesome! It's been great to chat with you, and I look forward to that. I'll message you, and I've really pushed the time here, so I'm going to let you go. But all the best, and thank you, Ryan, from Movie Nerds, for pulling this together as well.